Hey everyone, this is Matt. Welcome back to my channel, Blind to Billionaire. How does a blind person, like myself, see or identify other people? Well, that's actually a good question. I actually don't see other people, but I actually identify people that I know or that I've interacted with in the past, through different ways of gathering information about these people. Or if they're new people, what I do is I just gather tons of information about them throughout the interaction to kind of give me an idea of maybe what they look like, just to kind of paint a picture in my head of what this person is like, physically, maybe what they look like, just the type of person that they are. So some of the things that I use when I gather information is, I pay attention to the way the person speaks. I listen to their voice. Just the way that a person speaks and the sound of their voice tells me a lot of information. For example, if it's a man and he has maybe a deeper voice, I can get a lot of information. I can maybe guess his age, roughly his age, just by his voice. For example, again, if I shake his hand, just a simple handshake tells me a lot about a person. If I shake a man's hand and he has a big, kind of a big hand, I can probably guess that he's also kind of a big person, maybe a big structure. He's maybe tall. If I shake a man's hand and his hand is kind of skinny and he has long, thin fingers, I can probably guess that he's probably tall and thin. If it happens to be a woman, same kind of thing. Bigger hands, I'm guessing she's possibly a bigger woman, and very small, petite hands, she's probably short and thin or skinny. So that's just another way that I gather information about people as I'm meeting people. So something else that I do, if I'm standing and I'm interacting with a person, or I'm just standing and I'm observing a person somewhere near me and I want to know maybe more about that person, I'll listen to where their voice is coming from. So if I'm standing, I'm about 5'11". So if I'm standing and I can hear that their voice is coming from equal level or maybe lower, well then obviously I can assume that that person is probably a little bit shorter than I am. Or the same thing, if the voice is coming from a higher angle, I can assume that that person is a little bit higher or a little bit taller than me. So I do this just to gather information. So in contrast to a person who has sight, you walk up to a person, or maybe from a far distance, you can already see just about everything about that person. You can see their height, you can see their hair color, in some cases you can see their eye color, you can see their build, kind of their body type. And with me, I don't know anything like that. When I walk up or near a person and I start talking or interacting with that person, I don't know anything about them. I have no idea if they're young or old, if it's a man or woman. Obviously, until they start talking, then I can quickly assume and guess if it's a man or woman. But other than that, I don't know anything. And I need to gather information about this person over time through interacting or just listening to them talk, to build a picture of what this person may look like. Something else that gives me a ton of information is if I happen to give someone a hug. Well, that gives me a lot of information, because when I hug someone, it gives me a description or a kind of a picture of their body type or their size. So when I hug that person, I can feel, okay, this person is very small, or it's a bigger person. Like if I hug someone like my dad or something, it's like, okay, obviously it's a man because he's as big as I am. So that's another way. And then, I can also feel their height too. So maybe in question previously was, how tall is this person? Well, I may have a guess at, okay, they're similar to my height, maybe 5'10" to 6 feet range. But if I hug that person, I may think, okay, yeah, they're my height, because when I hug them, our shoulders line up. So it's very interesting to just gather information about people as I interact with them and kind of build the picture. As far as things like hair color, hairstyle, eye color, those are all for the imagination when it comes to me, because obviously I don't know that. So I could ask somebody who's sighted, what color hair does that person have, or what is their hair like, or what color eyes do they have, to kind of help me build a better picture of what the person may look like. So what else is interesting too is there's a lot of people who I meet, and just based off of their voice and maybe a handshake, possibly a hug over time, it's interesting because I build a picture of this person, and then maybe a month down the road I ask, hey, what color hair does she have? And then it's not consistent with the picture that I've built in my head. It doesn't matter what their true hair color is and what someone tells me. I actually don't believe that, because it's not that I don't believe it. I believe it, but it's like it's hard for me to grasp that because I already have this picture in my head of what they look like. For example, there's a woman I know who I've known for a few years now, and I don't know why it is, but I've always had this picture of her wearing a black baseball hat with a ponytail out the back. And it's ridiculous, but that's just the original picture that I've always had of this person. And when I've asked other people, what does she look like? They've told me, well, she has hair that's styled and it's actually kind of gray. Well, it's weird for me to picture her with that type of hair because that's not the image that I've ever had of her. So it's always interesting. She still wears that hat. Every time I see her, she's still wearing that dang hat. It's pretty funny. And I've actually told her that story and she thinks it's pretty funny. So as far as how do I identify and interact with people that I've known, for example, maybe during family gatherings such as Christmas, where there could be 30 plus people at a gathering. Now these are all people that I've spent my whole life with. I've known since the time I was a child, since I was an infant. So for example, aunts, uncles, cousins, people like that. So when I'm in a situation where there's a lot of people who I know, I typically recognize these people by their voice. But like I said, in these situations, there's so many people, they're all moving around, interacting, and I don't see these people all that often, other than maybe a few times a year at the most. So I recognize them by their voice, but sometimes I do a mistake. I maybe call one of my cousins the wrong name, and it's embarrassing. Typically they laugh at me, and it's a really embarrassing situation. So, but anyway, that's just what I do. But in these situations, rather than actually walking around and mingling and talking with people, I typically park in one place. I'll either sit on a couch or a chair, or I'll stand somewhere kind of centrally in the room, and I'll actually let these people come to me. And most of my family's pretty good by now. As they walk up, they'll maybe shake my hand or give me a hug, depending on who the person is. And they'll say, oh, hey, it's Aunt Debbie, or hey, it's Cousin Drew, something like that. So the people have adapted over time, and they've kind of evolved and recognized that, over the last 10 years, my vision has declined to the point where I unfortunately can't recognize faces anymore. So I just thought it'd be interesting to create a quick video and explain how I, as a blind person, recognize people who are new, just new people I've never met before, or people that are in my family that I see, a couple times a year and I've known my entire life. So do me a huge favor. If you like the video, subscribe and hit the like button down below. Otherwise, leave your comments and questions as well, and I'll do everything I can to answer any questions you may have. And I do actually personally answer every question that comes in. Be sure to keep watching, and I'll have more videos for you tomorrow. Thanks again for watching.